Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. I am super excited for this one because we're kicking off a new series. It's time to engine swap my BRZ. So I have two BRZs, 2.5 BRZs. I got one crashed one out front. I got the Plan A BRZ and the Plan B BRZ. The Plan B BRZ is a manual, so I've been using that a lot more. Well, I've been using that period because I finished that weeks after I finished the Plan A, and the Plan A had a automatic transmission that I really didn't like, and I didn't like the way it drove. So Plan A's just been sitting outside, hasn't really been getting used, and that's such a shame. So I figured let's 2JZ swap it. So we're gonna pull the motor out of that one and we're gonna put a 2JZ in there, 2JZ turbo in there. 2JZ GTE is the game plan. And I'll explain the whole idea to you guys as we go on, but that is what this series is all about. And today we're gonna kick it off by pulling the stock motor out of my BRZ. I'm super excited to get started. Stay tuned. All right, so we are right now in the BRZ, and this car hasn't been driven in forever, so let's see how this goes. I just threw a new battery in there, which is questionable, but there we go, started up. So it's a tight fit to get into the garage over there. We got to move the car basically just to the right a bunch, but it's time to do it. Let's make it happen. All right, we're in, and so when somebody asks me what the miles are, I got the miles right there. It's a 15,000 miles on this car, and if the engine ran when we pulled it out, it definitely ran just fine. All right, now we're ready to get it out. All right, so it's actually a lot easier getting it in here than I thought it would be. The car actually ran really well for having been sat there for quite a while. It's been sitting for many months. But threw a new battery in it, it started right up. So I'm really happy about that, just because now I can sell this motor as, you know, good condition, running when pulled. Running when pulled, right. Okay, so I want to go ahead and rotate the car a little bit. I'm going to kind of try and mix it up from the last time because I got kind of bored of having the car in this way, although I know that that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the car on rollers and get it kind of positioned, and then I'm going to grab the shop vac and start cleaning it up a little bit, get the trees off of here. I know what you guys are thinking. I should be ashamed. I am. I apologize to all the BRZ owners out there. I basically let nature take a shot at this thing. And it is pretty messed up at this point. But I will fix it up. I will make it pretty. This will be an awesome car that I will start using. And I won't neglect any of my cars anymore. Once we fix the Camaro, no more cars are getting neglected. If I don't use them, I'm just going to sell them. Because this can't keep happening. This is pretty bad. It's embarrassing, really. So let's talk about the plan for this this motor and this build and how we're going to do that too, and then we'll start working on removing the motor. All right, the plan for this is pretty simple. You just have to kind of think about it the way I'm thinking about it, and hopefully it will make sense. What I'm trying to do is figure out if there is a very small budget way to basically double the horsepower in this car, or maybe a little bit more. I think that's what the 2JZ is. So everything is kind of on, for this first phase, it's kind of on a pretty thin budget. And that's by my choosing, because what I want to do is see if it's possible, so I can show other BRZ owners and stuff like that, see if it's possible to do this on a really thin budget. So a lot of people have commented, manual transmission, dude, put a manual transmission in before you even put it in the car. Yes, that would save a lot of headaches and different things like that, or wouldn't save headaches, but it would save headaches later on down the road and stuff like that. But adapter plates and manual transmissions for these cars are more than the motor costs to start with. So that's why we're not doing that. Standalone ECU, again, costs half, the motor and transmission that I got was $2,000. So a standalone ECU, $1,000 plus tuning, another $1,000 minimum, you're at $2,000 again. So that's why we're not doing that. Big standalone, big single turbo, we could do that because you can actually still use the stock ECU with a big single turbo. Motion Auto TV does that on its 240. But we're not going to do that to get started, not that we won't ever do it. And all of these things are, I should say, it's not that we're not ever going to do it. I expect to probably do all of those things, but I want to do them in different phases. And for this one, I really want to see what's the price tag that it costs to make a BRZ that comes off with 200 crank horsepower, comes off the line, roughly 200, I'm terrible at remembering numbers, to 400 to 500 wheel horsepower on a 2JZ GTE. How do we do it? What are the pitfalls? What are the expensive parts? How does it happen? So that's the game plan. All right, so the first thing we got to do is pull this motor. I have never pulled a motor before. I've never done an engine swap before. So this entire project is going to be really fun for me because I always look forward to the parts where I have to learn these things. So I'm very excited. I hope I don't do anything wrong. If you're watching these and you're going to kind of follow along or something like that, always kind of look down in the comments. People will comment and correct things that I do wrong inside the video. That's probably the best way to learn because I'm going to wing it. I've watched a couple other videos of people doing this and that's it. So I'm going for it. Yeah, I'm gonna get some things going, and I think let's go ahead and start breaking down the front end. I want to get a lot of these pieces off of the car before I start trying to pull the motor out. That way I don't hit any of them or damage them, and it should all come off pretty quick. So I'm gonna start breaking down the front end. Hood's off, front bumper's off. Let's recap some of this car and what we did. I'm just gonna talk shit about my own build. So a year and a half later, let's talk about kind of how far I've come and what I wouldn't ever do again. This was supposed to be replaced before we finished the build. It wasn't. Don't build one of those on your own. That's a dumb idea. That will do nearly absolutely nothing to help you in the event of a crash. Other thing that is kind of glaring to me is we did some waterproofing here. I wanna say waterproofing. And it looks like we learned a lot between the first car and the second car because the second car is still working. This would have really never worked if it was used a lot. We would have had water shooting out through the front of that headlight. We would have had water kind of coming in here. This amount of water hitting the back of this headlight, odds are it would have started fogging up if it hasn't already. Somehow, these are aftermarket headlights that have survived out in the weather. But all that water flying in, it would have just completely flooded inside the engine bay and stuff like that. Unless you got really lucky with just the rotation of the tire and stuff like that. But anyways, so those are things that will be fixed in this build. I'll probably just order the OEM bash bar unless I get an aftermarket bash bar from some company. But yeah, those things, this will go straight in the trash, and all that waterproofing's got to be redone in some sort of much better way. I think what I was trying to do is just protect this fuse box, but it's got to come all the way from here down to here and cover everything like I did on the plan B. Okay, time to continue on. I think I'm just going to keep going with the breakdown. All right, I ran into a silly problem pretty much really early on, is that I don't have a Sharpie. I can't find any of my Sharpies. And you gotta label everything when you're doing an engine swap. So I've gotten to the point where there's quite a lot of different wires and things that have now been exposed, and we're looking at having more. I gotta go get a Sharpie, that way I can label everything. Labeling as many of these things as you can before you pull the motor out is gonna help you in the long run. All right, we have progress. Things are coming along nicely. I haven't really ran into any sticking points. I want to pull this front core support out. You don't have to do this project, but it's going to be a lot easier for me to pull the engine out and test fit the new one and all that other good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to fish this thing out. The hard part is there's bolts that are located underneath that fender over there, and I don't want to pull the fenders off because then I'd have to pull the side skirts off, and that's a little bit more than what I want to do tonight. So hood latch needs to come off. This middle support needs to come off, and then bolts over there and bolts right here, and then this thing should come off. It's really starting to look like a different beast. Core support is out, so we have now the ability to just kind of pull this whole unit forward. That's what I was looking to get to as far as a disassembly stage. So now it's time to start working on focusing on the engine and what needs to be done to disassemble it. So you got to take the exhaust off. We got to disconnect the transmission. We got to drain fluids. So we're draining the radiator's clearly drained because that's off the car. We've got transmission fluid needs to be drained and oil needs to be drained. Motor mounts need to be loosened up. Bolts need to be taken off of that, and then electrical needs to all be disconnected inside here. and air conditioning, fuel lines, and some other lines. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on tomorrow. And then the big thing that I'm going to be researching tonight is where to kind of hook up to this thing with the engine hoist to pull it out. I saw Speed Academy did this, and they kind of hooked up through here and there. And that seems like they were just pulling their motor though, which isn't as heavy as what I'm doing, which is motor and trans. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be enough, but I see a hook back here that's bolted onto the block. That looks like promising to me, that hook right there. And then I was thinking maybe I could wrap around this hole right in here that goes onto the block to go to the AC compressor. So that's my thought, but I'm gonna do more research tonight and try and see if I could find out a more definitive answer either way. And then tomorrow I'll come in under there and start unbolting stuff, and we'll try and pull it out. I got back in the shop today and it smelled like cookies in here. I don't know what mixture of toxic chemicals can turn out to smell like cookies, but I like it. So it's time to get back on the motor pulling train. I went to the store and I bought a load leveler, which is probably not that important since we don't have a front end, but I hear that they're helpful to have when pulling an engine. So I'll show you that later. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the electrical and things like these fuel lines and this mystery line. I'll figure out what that is once I pull it off. But yeah, the electrical I've heard is pretty simple. I'm gonna switch the camera to the top down view so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'll try and get all that unbuttoned. I'm getting pretty close now. I think I have everything from the top side disconnected except for these fuel lines. I watched on a Speed Academy video where they did an engine swap. They did a great video on swapping one of these engines out, that you can use a very small flathead screwdriver and kind of jam it in there to get this quick disconnect fuel line off. So that's what I'm working on doing, but I have a feeling it's going to take me a while. So I'm going to keep fiddling with this, and then once we're done with that, then I can go underneath and start freeing stuff up from underneath. All right, rather than run to the store and waste more time getting the right tool, I just decided to cut the lines because my motor won't care. And whoever buys this motor probably won't care too much either that there's extra connections on it. Extra is not gonna hurt anything. So whoever buys this can then figure that out. So yeah, that's good. I think that's it for the top side. Did I get that vacuum hose off? Nope, I gotta pull that vacuum hose off too. So just a quick overview. It's a good deal of electrical over here with your just like straight up battery connector. You want to get that free. And then you got the electrical wiring harness right down here. That's like kind of these things. It's basically the whole engine harness. So there's one here and one here. Fuel lines, vacuum line to the brake booster. And the alternator stuff. That's kind of basically it. Oh, so also there's some AC stuff that goes back there. You'll want to go ahead and undo that. And yeah, you can figure it out for yourself. But you're looking for electrical, you're looking for fuel, and you're looking for, I don't know, vacuum lines, AC lines. All right, so next I'm gonna go ahead and jump underneath. I'm gonna go ahead and unbolt the exhaust manifold from the overpipe. I'm gonna leave the exhaust manifold on the engine for the time being, and I'm gonna go ahead and unbolt the transmission. We also need to drain oil and transmission fluid. All right, fluids are drained. So the next thing I'm gonna do is start unbolting everything from underneath. And let me see if I can remember what we gotta do. So we're gonna unbolt the header from the overpipe, leaving the overpipe in there for the time being. The header will come with the motor. It's not a header, sorry, it's an exhaust manifold. Transmission mount, gotta unbolt that. Unbolt the transmission from the driveline. There is some sort of cooler down here on the driver's side. We gotta unbolt that so it frees up. And the motor mounts, can't forget to unbolt the motor mounts. And I think that's it. So there's just a lot of unbolting and fiddling to do down there. And then hopefully it'll be somewhat free. We shall see. All right, I want to try and do my best to show you guys around underneath here what I had to do. So had the overpipe, so that's the exhaust manifold. The overpipe had to be completely unbolted, which runs along the side of the transmission, which you're seeing there. And then going back, you have the transmission mount, which I unbolted, took the guts out of it and put it back in there to make sure the transmission didn't fall on my head, but then I also put the jack under it as well. So you can see then there, that's where the driveline unbolts, but the automatic transmission has a lot more driveline than the manual. At least that's what I'm thinking. I didn't see anywhere closer to the automatic transmission that I could unbolt it. So that's unbolted. Then you have your shift linkage that had to be unbolted, and I don't know, a couple other things, but a lot of stuff is freed up under here. That's that cooler that I was talking about. You can kind of just barely see it on the left side there of the jack. That I took off as well. So I'm probably going to start to pull up on this motor and find more things. But and then I will have to take the transmission mount bracket off to let that big crazy swingy thingy spinning bearing drive shaft holder thing through there. But it's going to be a long kind of trailing thing that this thing's got to kind of peel out of here, and I don't want it to be dragging and hit the sway bar and the power steering too much. So that's kind of the gist of it. It's time to start getting the hoist and the crane ready. All right, so like I said earlier, I think it's about time to start figuring out how we're gonna get the hoist over here and lift up on the engine. I have heard that one of the better spots to pull up on this motor is for the front side. So the back side, there's a hook right here. Front side is where this AC compressor bolts into the block right here. So you actually pull the AC compressor unit off the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. It shouldn't be that hard. I gotta find the belt tensioner for this guy and loosen that up and then pull this thing off. Then we should have access to a nice little hook. All right, these quick connects came in very much in handy. So you got like a couple of quick connects on the load balancer and same on the other side. And the weight of the engine is now being held up by the crane. You can see I can move it a little bit, and I don't know. I was able to slide the engine out a tiny bit. So now I'm gonna have to. I don't know the safe way to do this, but I got to get underneath there and take out that transmission mount thing, but also not smash my head with the transmission. So I'll have to play with that. There is a jack under there, so I guess I'll leave the weight of the transmission on the jack, take off the transmission mount, then I'll loosen up that jack and I'll just figure out a way to slide this thing out. Here we go, fingers crossed. Probably don't need a socket wrench in there right now. Motor is out and on the ground. I tried to put it on the flat, but I couldn't figure that out. For those of you that have done this before, you'll notice that I was kind of talking about that, how that was dangling. That detaches from the transmission right there. So anybody that's an automatic guy that's got that issue, you can unbolt that side from the driveline, then you'll be able to, and then undo that bracket, and you'll be able to slip that guy out real quick. You don't have to worry about it, but you can take it off with it in. It'll just slide off during the process. So here's our engine bay. To bring the 2J in, I believe that we're going to have to trim these guys off, and everything goes real close to this back wall. But how cool is that? Here's one thing that I noticed. After this car got in an accident, I sent it to the frame straightener, and that's a frame rail, and that's a big kink in it that he never straightened. So I'm going to reinforce that at some point along the way. Oh, look. Interesting. A grounding wire that I might have forgot to take off the motor and just snapped off, or maybe it snapped off in the wreck, and maybe that's why our car didn't start for so long. Who knows? There's another one. I must have pulled both of those off of the motor. Whoopsies. So this is what it looks like. We still got our brake assembly here. Power steering's right there. That's all electric. Our OEM fuse box and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, this can go. This is done being in here. I'll go ahead and remove that in a minute. Awesome. Got a nice 2JZ shaped hole right there. This FA20 motor and the automatic transmission, for anybody that is wondering, is definitely for sale. As you guys know, I'm trying to do this project on a budget, so that will help go towards our budget. 15,000 miles on the motor. The only issue that it had was that there's an oil leak in the bottom, a very, very, very small oil leak, but it pissed me off enough to, well, when these Subaru motors leak oil, it leaks right onto the exhaust manifold and then it smokes and it's really annoying. So, but now that it's out of the car, it should be pretty easy to find that and fix it, or just swap out the crankcase on the front. And that should solve the problem. But it is for sale locally. I'm not shipping it anywhere, but if anybody wants it that's a viewer, come on down. I'm also going to throw it up on Craigslist, and I'll let you guys know how much it goes for. I have no idea what it's worth, but if anybody wants to know the price of it, just find like the cheapest one that's similar to this online and take like 30% off of that, and I'd be happy to give it to you for that. I don't have a lot of time to deal with selling parts, but it's also always nice to throw a little bit of money back into the budget. Just so you guys know, also speaking on the budget, the car's going to get other upgrades other than the motor. We're doing a dual brake caliper setup on the rear. We're going to upgrade the suspension to better coilovers. We're going to essentially redo the body kit, but keep the same body kit, but we're going to take it off and reapply it all. We're going to do a different body styling, paint-wise and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of transformation on this car. I really want it to be a true transformation. So yeah, that's what's in store for it in the future. But for now, we got the motor out. Woohoo! Alright guys, and with that, that is the end of this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like BS for Build, you like what we do, and you want to help out and support, head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop, pick yourself up a hat or a key tag or a banner like the one behind me. We got BRZ banners in the shop, and all the proceeds of that go directly towards supporting this build. And this one clearly needs some love right around now. Thank you guys all so much that have already done that. If you want to find us in more places, we are BS for Build on Instagram, and we are BS for Build on Facebook. Also, if you're watching this live, not this Monday, but next Monday, so not the day you're watching this, but next Monday, I'm going to be in Texas for a car meet down at Copart. I will put a link to that event in the description. I would love to see you guys there. Let's have a big presence at that car meet. It would be very, very cool, and it would mean a lot to me. So I hope to meet a lot of you guys in Texas. That's it. I'm very, very happy. First time I've ever pulled a motor, went out completely successfully. I'm very, very happy. Didn't drop anything on my feet. I was a little worried about crushing something. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Y'all know I need those subscribers. Peace!